Okay, thank you. Sorry. Knowledge of the country, the council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands where we work and live. Council celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of the New South Wales Central Tablelands. Members and the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting, other than confidential matters, will be recorded and made publicly available on the council website. And persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Item 1 is apologies. I know we have an apology from Member Fry. Are there any other apologies? Can I have a mover, please, to accept that? Member Smith and Member Ewan, thank you. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Item 2 is disclosure of interest. Council members are reminded of their obligations in the council's code of conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. If any member has any declaration of interest, they should do so now. Are there any pecuniary or non-pecuniary disclosure of interest, please? No, please, thank you. Item 3, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 16th of June 2023. These have been circulated to members. Council, the recommendation is that council adopts the minutes of the previous meeting of the Upper Macquarie County Council. Can I have a mover, please? Member O'Connor and Member Smith. Second, thank you. Any discussion on the previous minutes? Okay. All in favour? Aye. Thank you. Item 4. 3.2. Oh, sorry, we have another set of minutes to accept, which is the extraordinary meeting. Item 3.2 is the meeting of the 14th of July 23. Can I have someone move to accept those minutes, please? Member Reynolds and Member O'Connor. Any discussion on those minutes of the 14th of July? All in favour that those minutes be accepted as written? Aye. Aye. Thank you. Item 4 is the matters in progress. Before we have discussion on this matter, the recommendation is the council note the matters in progress update. Can I have a move, please? Member Smith, Member O'Connor. Discussion on this matter, gentlemen. I've got a couple of questions, if I could. General Manager. The letter to the constituent councils, they've been sent out and we're still awaiting responses, or where is the status of that?
They have not been sent. They are still drafted in my office, ready to go. I'm working with Chris in relation to some discussions with the contractors about the adjustments that they've done. So I wanted to just ensure that everything was in place before I offered up those agreements.
So we anticipate they are
on my desk.
All has been done in relation to the change to the business name.
Yes, I'm asking that matter will be closed.
Yeah, that's all that. Any issues? All right, all in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Item 5. The chairman's minutes and confidential, so we will not do all that here. Item 6, governance program and legislative compliance. The public interest disclosure return has been circulated, and the recommendation is that council notes report. Move a second, please. Member Reynolds, Member Watt. Thank you. Discussion on this matter. Do I have a mover, please? Member O'Connor, a second, and Member Smith. I think just noting in the comments there, in the third paragraph, above, it should be patience, not patience.
Yes, I saw that.
About the hospital, yeah, that's right, I saw that.
Depends.
Yeah, no, that's right. We can take it either way.
Yeah.
Some hospital representative.
Apart from that, minor note, change the report. I was think. All in favour?
Nice. You were, weren't
6
you?
point, we'll do all these separate. 6.1.3, the ARIC minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ARIC meeting, 16th of February 2023. Or council notes, the minutes of the set. Can I have a member, please? Member O'Connor and Member Smith. Any discussion on that or any comment, Mr. Member Reynolds? Thank you.
I may have missed them somewhere, but where is the attachment?
Yes.
My bad. I'll get that around.
Well, I think we can't leave it if we haven't had it.
Okay.
So withdraw that motion, yes. 613. 6.2. Finance. The unaudited general purpose financial statements. The recommendation is that council authorises the chairperson and the deputy chairperson, Bruce Reynolds, to sign the statement by members on page 2 of the general purpose financial statements for the year of 30th of June 2023. The second part is to submit the general purpose financial statement to the external auditor for audit. I can have a mover of the recommendation, Member Reynolds and Member O'Connor. Thank you for discussing on this matter, please. Member Reynolds.
Hoping someone else would take it. I think the first important point to note with the financial statements is the performance. Well, firstly, before I say anything else, to commend Lisa for all the work that she has done to get these financial statements and to get them done so quickly. That's remarkable. I think we may be one of the first, if not the first, council across the state to again lodge. So that's remarkable. So you take your hat off to Lisa. I just like that noted. To look at the financial performance of the county council, and noted here that we did have very strong performance at $129,000 profit for the year, but there were some things to note, particularly the sale of vehicles, which I think was just over $50,000, which was counted as a profit because those vehicles were written off in the depreciation schedule. So anything that we sold those vehicles for. So, but we have also performed reasonably well. Interest income, which was projected as very, very low. I think we were only $4,000 or $5,000, came in at $45,000. So about $40,000 of the 129 was because of extra interest on top. So you're getting close to $100,000 of the profit in the those two items. And then there were some other costs that didn't come quite in on the projected budget. Other costs came in right on the budget. So and particularly I think our budgeted item for legal expenses came in well under the projected budget that we had, so that probably improved our outcomes again more, which probably explains probably about 90% of the to note that with regard to, and I'll frame a question through to the general manager, to maybe explain whether we've had any write-offs of debt, or have we got a reasonable provision there, and if so, why? With regard to the provisions for debtors that we currently have. So I'll go through Mr. Chair to the general manager.
I think we're dealing with one in confidential, so we really can't talk about that.
Correct. But those debtors include the penalty infringement notices And Lisa, in consultation with the auditors, works on those to see whether or not we've got some people that are willing to run a pin out to the loss of a driver's licence, etc., which some do. And then we have a process of actually referring those to a debt collection agency for further follow-up. So it's the things that I think are the main contributing factor to that. But Lisa, do you have any other comments in relation to those debtors?
Yes, you'll see there on page 18, other expenses, other bad and doubtful debts, 15,000 there. So they're generally broken up into two major sections, one being penalty infringement notices and the other being the landholders that participate in our aerial spraying program and the potential for, perhaps we're fixing something with them, or maybe there was an error in spraying, or we're working with them on something else, or they're refusing to pay. So that's the other one that we work through. So then they will get classified, and if they get determined to be a bad debt, the write-off, it will come through council. But at the moment, they're considered doubtful, $15,000 per. Right, that helps.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the manager. So the money from PINs should come through. It may be a delayed process, but you would expect that most will be recovered.
That's the design of them, I'd say. Penalty infringement notices, the Office of South Wales Revenue got lots of powers in the recovery of them. And Lisa, you'd like to add a comment there?
Yes, so when council determines that a fine is a doubtful debt, is at a 60-day period, only because it was determined that way when we first started issuing fines under the Biosecurity Act, that Revenue New South Wales begin their second phase of chasing that fine at 60 days. And so it becomes harder and harder for them to collect that fine. And it will sit there. It will sit there and sit there and sit there for a very long time. So we have to determine why those accounts receivables aren't dropping. And that's why they are determined as a doubtful debt, so that we can demonstrate that they're sitting there iffy, sort of like an iffy sort of receivable. And that's, so it's at 60 days that a fine for us is determined as a doubtful debt.
And then we proceed to pay the.
But then I guess that's different to commercial debt. I mean, commercial debt from one company to another, or one individual to another, you can't get it in 60 or 90 days. You've got very little chance. Whereas this sounds like
there's no end to the pursuit of a PIN.
I mean, in the case of LLS, of course, it ends up with the sale of the product. That's very good. So anyway, that's probably enough on that. Thank you.
So of 15,000, how much would be non-payment of PINs at this stage?
I have to go back and have a look. I do have that question on notice. Joe was about.
We'll take that note on.
A question from
Yes, members.
a debt from previous years, presumably is written off in those previous years, but if it's collected, it comes in as income this year. So that's always a plus, isn't it?
So it shouldn't be it's not a cumulative, doubtful, it shouldn't be cumulative.
The expense isn't no, but the contra asset is
The provision.
the provision, yeah.
Just for clarification, Mr. Chair, it doesn't appear in our profit and loss
Yeah.
until we actually write it off as a council. So something have to come that, there's 5 debts that we write off because they've all lost their driver's license rather than paying the debt. If we got that sort of evidence, then we come back to council and say, okay, there's 4 here. But at this stage, it appears in the statement of financial position as a doubtful debt. So, but it doesn't appear in the profit and loss until we actually write it off.
So some
Negative asset.
So some debtors might end up deciding to work for the local community nursery on some sort of volunteer basis and pay off their debt. So that might be good for society, but it doesn't help us.
Well, roadside weeds. Be an option.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I think that is one of the options that are available. There is community service, so yeah, that would be something that we supported.
I know people do work for the organisation of that when they don't pay their parking fines.
Correct.
And they get so much a day or so much a month, they work it off and they a lot of time sometimes, but yeah.
Revenue New South Wales in the last couple of years, they've actually commenced as a debt recovery service for agencies as well, but we haven't signed up at this stage. So they process debt and then go and recover it, charge a fee for that.
Any other questions? I have a question on employee benefits. Total employee benefit provisions now up to 220,000, gone up about 50,000 last year.
Yeah, that was the employment of the new general manager that brought with them some benefits that the person has acquired over years of service. And that was an agreed arrangement on my transfer from one council to another.
Well, that's pretty late, right? Yes.
But on the other side, that there would have been a transfer of funds to borrow from
Yes,
the previous
It's not,
employee.
it's not a, yeah.
But that does, Mr. Chair,
And that begs the policy point as to whether there should be a note to the accounts.
Can I just, I'll have to look into it. Can I take that on a notice? Because I know of more information that may help us determine what we should bump our reserves up to.
Yeah,
Can I take, yeah.
I just wonder whether it's appropriate for a note to be made to the accounts, because if someone looks at this without not having that knowledge, then it could be.
It's not only the general manager, sorry.
I didn't think it was.
Because that's a significant amount for being, yeah, that wouldn't be it. What I believe it is actually other long-term employee benefit obligations. So expected future payments are discounted. So it's the discounting that occurs, and that has been produced by a government agency that gives them the discounting rate. And so that actually bumps it up significantly. So a forecast for 10 years time, what might that look like? And so there is a discounting rate applied to these provisions. So, and that's what I think, but if I could take this
Yeah,
question.
no, please take on notice, because the discounting factor would have applied to last year as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I think it is, but I can't confirm that.
Okay. Yes, member.
So, Mr. Chair, in looking at our financials as well, I think so with the level of provisioning, I think at the moment, I think we have about 150,000 provisioned, and the general manager's having a look at whether for the September meeting or potential September meeting, once the audited accounts come back, that we actually potentially increase the provisions for employee entitlements. As at the moment, we've got about $700,000+ restricted, but whether that should increase or not. So just flagging that there may be a report that comes back, but also with regard to capital requirements, as in our provisions, if you read the accounts, are down to a very low level. I think it's about $7,000. $9,000. And we're looking at spending potentially a couple of $100,000. So again, whether we restrict more funds to cover the potential capital expenditure. So, but there's nothing in today's report, but I've asked the general manager to have a look at potential provisioning to restrict some of those funds that we currently have in our bank account.
That'll be coming back as a QBR.
So that'll come back with the next QBR in September. October.
November, I think, is the next council meeting after the September workshop.
Yeah, but I'll be ordering.
Ordering 13th September.
Sorry, that's-
Yeah.
that's- Okay, any other questions? All in favour of the recommendation? 6.2.2 is the investment report for June 2023. The recommendation is the council notes the report. Can I have a mover, please? Member Smith, Member O'Connor. Thank you. So we have also have an investment report for July 2023. All right. Note the investments. Any comments on this? Yes, Member Reynolds.
I was just going
Do we
to.
ask for a mover in a second?
Yes, councillor Smith.
I think it's like this. Sorry. Yes, Member.
The members will notice a difference between the amount of money, the fourth quarter closing figure, this is for the June 30th figures of compared to cash and other cash equivalents in the financials. There's a bit over $11,000, $11,400, a few dollars. And so it's important to note that it's a prepayment. So that as in doing a reconciliation between the two accounts, there is a bit over $11,400 difference. And that is because of a prepayment that was put into the computer program for a payment that didn't come out of the bank account until the new financial year. So there is a difference. And I'm sure if any member wanted to have a look at the difference, as in the staff would provide you with the full explanation, but I just wanted to highlight there is a difference between the two accounts. But there is an explanation, and I have suggested a potential note in the financial accounts to explain why there is a difference between the two figures. I think I'll leave it there, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I understand. Any other comments on the investment report for June 2023? All in favour of this report? 6.2.3 is the investment report for July 2023. The recommendation. What, 40,000 for June? Yes, Member Reynolds.
A question, have the council's been invoiced yet because normally we do fairly quickly. I assume, well, there's been no council payments as yet from the four constituent councils, but through to the general manager, if I may, Mr. Chair.
The constituent councils have been very supportive of the county council. They have been, and I think.
Three have come in. I can't remember what dates though, but three of them.
So they've come in after the end of this report. After July.
We did make some large payments also in June to insurance. So what may have happened is we had one large payment, say for money, but also paid out of their bit in insurance. So I think something like that happened.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on this one? All in favour of the report? Aye. Thank you. Item 7 is the landholder support program. 7.1 is the aerial spraying program for autumn 2024. The recommendation is the council notes the updating portfolio beginning autumn 2024 aerial spraying program. Move, please. Member O'Connor. Second, please. Member Ewan. Maybe probably just any updates on this, because I know you've been negotiating the council employees have been dealing with Rotor Solutions and maybe commercial helicopters in relation to granular, but I'm not probably not at this stage. Apart from giving the green side.
Correct. So it's just a little bit early for me to give any further detail on the pending program, but task force is available in Australia at the moment, so we're just looking at what our opportunities are there.
Task force is sort of program through a program. Yeah, I think task force is a brand.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's a fault there. It's in Lisbon, is that?
Has it been circulated to retail?
Some retailers are aware of it, we're well aware of it. We're also very well aware of the possible. There's some considerations been made before. Yes.
So have we signed the agreement with Rota Solutions?
Yes, Rota Solutions are now our area of contractors. Finalised just this week. We're in the process now, and we will have discussion about this more in the closed session. Margie, commercial helicopters, they're long-standing contractors for these programs. And we're just finalising that arrangement with them by looking at the outstanding debtors that are available and how that may be set. Discuss that a little bit in the closed session.
Yes.
Matter related to.
So we've decided not to run an aerial program in spring 2023.
The council has decided that, but the position that management has at the moment is that we won't be ready for a spring program.
Because that would principally be using fluoropropionate, not blackberry spraying because of the time, is it correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Remember what the business is?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the general manager, how people not paying that signed up for a helicopter program, is that common? It seems like it's a substantial risk if there's a fair bit of money involved. And I suppose I was wondering if there's any way we can
Craft of flying property, so that's quite significant for
Yeah,
any agreement. And then the remaining 50% is billed to them as soon as we possibly can after the program is completed. It's surprising that there's still $30,000 out there. I think in the trip, helicopters. And under those agreements, that debt is ours and it's ours to pursue. So we'll go down a path of debt recovery for that $30,000.
Remember what I think we actually looked at how we should charge this at one stage. And if there were people who hadn't already had problems with before, we were actually asking for 100% upfront. And we basically had put in place a risk rating assessment for anyone doing it. And I think it was basically, we dealt with that, I think it was 2 years ago, a year ago. And basically, so doubtful people have been promised before was 100% upfront, I think. Then most people 50.
It did, sorry, may I?
Yes, if you could. And then I think if they were a good client and been a regular user, I think it was a bit less lenient, but I might be correct.
One of our policies actually stipulated how doing it that way got quite complex. So anything over 10,000 would require 50% deposit, then anything up to 15 to 20,000 would require 50% deposit from 0 to 10,000 and 50% on the next. It got very complex, and so they broke it down to 50% unless you were a bad debtor, bad or doubtful debt in the last, I think it was 4 or 5 years. And so that would be 100% upfront. So you can clear your name from that afterwards, but if we had issues in collecting money from you before, then that's when you were determined as difficult and 100% upfront. I think it's something along those lines.
I don't remember that discussion. I must have.
It was in David Young's time.
I suspect it was before your time.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been miscount.
No,
it's-
I remember it quite clearly. Yes.
And then we talked about-
We discussed it quite length, so anyone who'd be here would remember it. If you weren't here, you wouldn't.
I thought there's something about new clients as well. If someone came program years, we had a discretion to charge 100%.
That's right, we did, yeah, but that, I don't believe we've used that yet.
So that we did come to a sort of policy to reduce it. It was a risk reduction. So,
Yeah, okay, so anyway, indeed.
it would, but the cost of, I mean, most of our tenant customers, I think, the cost of raising one may determine probably because you've got to pay, basically it's a loan to get a bank guarantee, so you're paying probably now, he's paying 6 or 7% for the period the bank guarantee is in place. And then they pay a documentation fee as well.
I believe that figure, the 50% deposit, etc., on that 10,000 was gleaned by David Young on our enterprise risk management plan and how far we could go into debt before it became dire for council. So that's why, sort of, if we have a landholder, unlikely, but we do have them, that will have up to $40,000 worth of aerial spraying, then that would be a significant loss if we weren't able to recover that. So anything sort of under 10,000, a 50% deposit was a good amount to have, and it's rare that they go sort of beyond, or significantly beyond 10 to 15,000 worth of spraying in one hit. So that's where that came from.
Oh, that's good. Sorry.
So could I suggest that minute? I don't want to use the word threat, but position of people using drones for spraying likely to affect our own aerial spraying. I understand it's being developed in the commercial world, it's the free enterprise world. So I was wondering if it's something that we need to be concerned about or
Ask the general manager.
My understanding is that drones aren't there yet, so there's no threat to the current program, but Chris is much more aware of the drone capability and what's occurring there. Chris, would you like to comment on whether we can do the whole thing with drones? How long we'd be out there?
While I think the drones have a place, but at this point, they can't compete with the broad scale of it, and the that larger infestation map. They're quite useful in isolated pockets for individual little areas. But it's just the scale of the operation, not just for the program, but also in some of the property jobs. What the helicopter would do in a few minutes, you take a drone a couple of days, do the work, and they work the client back. On the scale of the cost at this stage, some of that work, the helicopter is still more economical.
The size of the tank, having to that be in view of the operator, and obviously they have to get their vehicles in. I've had an experience personally with this, and it came in a lot more expensive than the helicopter.
no.
Because they can only carry maximum, well, depending on the model, 35 litres.
Most of them are running that
16 litres, most of them are.
And then, as we were saying, you need the flight operator, you then need a spotter, and then you almost need another person like a pit crew. So when they leave, that drone comes back, they pull that spray tank out, battery out, load the next one up, send it off again. But they're only doing 16 litres at a time. Yes, it's a more concentrated mix, but compared to doing 5, 10 hectare loads with a helicopter, so time backed up.
And less water is not always.
Yeah, no, I was interested in more in the commercial side of the drones, but appreciate the extended answer. That was very good. Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I also suggest, with regard to Member Leslie's comments, that the workshop in September, when we're going to look at options and pathways forward, so this is the early part of Member Leslie's comments that we discuss in that workshop, potential pathways and what this organisation may or may not do in the future. So to sort of put it on notice that in a month's time, we'll potentially discuss that further.
Yes. All right, all in favour of this recommendation, thank you. 8.1 is roadside spraying 2023-24. The recommendation is that the council notes the report. Can I have a mover, please? Member O'Connor, second please. Smith, thank you. Discussion on this matter?
If I may, I just think this idea of moving to three areas in a council is a good one. It's clearly going to work well for Lithgow. It brings us, it also enables the council, Lithgow Council itself, to explain the whole enough, but this gives a very clear, could be done adequately.
Thank you, Member Reynolds.
Question through to the Chief Biosecurity Officer with regard to road distances, and I'll use the example of Bathurst. As in, there is variations of up to 100 kilometres from the shortest to the longest in the 3 years. So, will this impact on the ability in that year where there's, I think it's 462?
You're saying between the aggregate.
Year one.
Yes, so in 1 year, as in there's, say 350, and another year there's 462, I think it is. So well over 100 kilometres extra. So will that impact on the ability to be able to do that whole area in that year, or how is the county council going to try and cover an extra 100 kilometres in one of those 3 years in Bathurst, as an example?
So yeah, I'd like Chris to discuss this. Chris consulted with the staff and contractors in coming to this drawing of the three sectors, and I opened with, can we try and get them equivalent to each other? And Chris very professionally demonstrated to me that that's not reasonable, in that the highways offer up a significantly slower rate of ability to be able to spray because of their width, and also the highway that comes through the county council area. Some areas of it are much more up and down than others. So when you leave Bathurst and head to Orange, it's a pretty flat journey compared to what occurs with the highway down towards Lithgow. So there was a whole lot of very valid reasons why we wouldn't be able to have each of the sectors with a really close number. But we did try to get as close as we could. So Chris, would you like to add some comments to that, please?
Yeah. So as I was just saying, the highways are one factor that comes into it. Width, density, what's on there, what's involved in that. Some council areas will require traffic control in some sections, so we require to back up areas that we know have potential traffic control problems. That's going to increase the time spent in those areas. Also accessing within those areas. Some areas are flatter, better access to get off the road and access. Other areas are steeper, harder to get into. And also some of the areas, so slight travel time between, but also part of travel time, areas that are easier to get up to refueling versus areas where we've got to come back further before we can recharge. The key spraying. So we try to take those factors into it. We're going to try and divide the sections up to try and make it more even in terms of the work that are going to that section versus the kilometres.
So with the fill-ups, where do you normally do them when you're going, when they're spraying?
So it will depend on material in some areas.
Because I've been asked often, because I've got a overhead filler, I'm quite happy for people to use that, and the contractors come and use that, they're paying right?
Yeah, for some areas.
So I feel some funds, they're more than happy.
Either come back and go up on or go along a river or stream somewhere we can refill. Get going. They are pretty good in that they know where they can try to get water from and try to get as close as possible to refill and go again.
Mr. Chairman, I think the group could have discussed this task for many, many days. It was very difficult and there was lots of different views on it. But we've come to establishing these sectors. They've been now reported to the councils under the agreement. When the agreement gets to them, they're required to come back to us and advise us of roadworks or any interruptions to those roads that are in those sectors in a timely basis. So I think we've given it a fair amount of careful consideration. And I agree with the councillor that looking at them just on the raw numbers, there's some significant differences, but we believe we've taken that into account.
Member Smith?
Probably to support that, I initially picked that straight up. There was 100 kilometres difference between year 1 and year 2 in Bathurst. But then when I scrolled through, I found that it seemed to be a lot more balanced. If you go to year 2 at Lithgow, it's got like 470 kilometre, but in year 1, it's got 200 kilometres, which offsets the year 1 at Bathurst. So for a holistic view, I feel it's pretty balanced. So I'm quite comfortable with it.
Right, any other discussion on this? Member Watt?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to note some of the colourful names of our roads. I know the good folk at on Dog Rocks Road were keen to get their name changed at one stage, and I'm just not sure how the folks on Root Hog Road. Lengthy conversation, anyone asking their address, obviously. Anyway, that's
Love it. The sign Curly Dick Road keeps getting stolen.
there's another one. I was
Member Reynolds? Is this about road names?
It is not, Mr. Chair. And the director, sorry, the Chief Biosecurity Officer is probably aware, in Blaney Shire, we have a number of bores in most of the villages that council.
That's what it was.
Hopefully, this is not wild boars, but actually water boars. And so hopefully we do potentially have the opportunity to utilise those. With the weather forecast being projected for this year and the current conditions, particularly in the Lithgow end of the county council being exceptionally dry, do we have a strategy to manage the roadsides if it continues in this dry pattern, and by October, November, we're potentially in drought?
Or in fact, to bring the program forward so we start spraying earlier.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Reynolds. It's just the prediction of weather is the part that disturbs me just a little bit. It's
Quite variable.
and the whole program's been based on averages over 5 years. It's the only way we could give consideration to meet this 3-year cycle. So yes, I do think there could be some problems identified over the first 2 years of it, and we can address those. It's not inflexible, the agreement. As in immediate predictions that we might have a really dry spell down at Lithgow, and what are we doing about it? We haven't
adjusting as we go.
Yeah.
As for the ball thing, Blaine Council has kindly given us a couple of sets of keys to those boards, and we've been utilising them for a while, and that definitely like is a benefit and increase in terms of time to be able to duck back and fill up and get back out there again.
Overall, there's one at Black Springs and O'Connell's. There's one more in the town, this one, main road. All right, any further discussion on this?
Just a quick, Mr. Chairman, it'd have to be pretty dry before you wouldn't spray blackberries.
All right.
I mean,
Depending on the location and
I've had blackberries not die.
yeah,
Too dry.
but it'd be, but
And the agent, yeah.
what I'm saying is down to 1 year and 10, less. So you do have to work on it.
Well, the last
You can't
drought,
really.
last year drought was probably 2 years. In succession. And so Tussie also.
There's still plenty of ground.
Rain in 3 months.
There's still plenty of ground.
Sorry.
So in reading as a follow-on or supplementary, that we could potentially, if it got too dry, we could defer some of the roads and hold off that funding till the next financial year and look at them again.
I think the agreement, and that as well, and the comment, I think from the chief fire security officer, if that occurs, we thought the issue will be brought back to council, or a note will be circulated.
Yeah, fair enough.
But the agreement does allow for that, it talks about environmental conditions.
Yeah, and it also talks about unspent funds in 1 year carrying into the next year. It also talks about if we get completed in one sector, before the spray season is completed, we will be going back to the council and saying, do you want us to continue? And they would have to provide additional funding for that. So the agreement is, I think, is very flexible for the council.
All right, all in favour? Oh, sorry.
One more thing, Mr. Chair. Just as a follow-on with regard to roadside, the Chief Biosecurity Officer and myself have been in some preliminary discussions with regard to the area south of the Cadia mine, because they're doing a annual program to try and control sticky nightshade, which is becoming a huge problem on particularly farms, but also potentially on the roadside. So I just wanted to flag that there may be something that comes back to council in the next month or two with regard to potentially a annual program for, say, 3-year period. But again, nothing in writing and nothing firmed yet with regard to roadsides, particularly to control the sticky nightshade, but you would also probably control blackberries on an annual basis if this potential project was to get up. Just more flagging it at this stage. So Penuara down through to Mandurama, as in the Chief Biosecurity Officer and I had one preliminary meeting with proponents, and they're looking at potentially funding it. So an outside source outside of councils, but it would go through, in this case, Blaney Shire Council. And I've also had discussions with another potential funding organisation that may also look at extending that further too. So again, very preliminary, nothing in writing, nothing agreed upon, but as in to try and participate in particularly that sticky nightshade problem and issue and the control, because roadways are a pathway that we have been having discussions with this particular party and a secondary party I've had discussions with earlier this week about sort of funding options for doing an annual control for at least 3 years. I'll leave it there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Slightly better targeting high risk properties, I think, from what I can see. I think June and July 23, the 299 of 380 of the 91 of the 380 were first inspections, and 77 of those were high risk. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And the ones done from 1st of July to 31st, we weren't quite successful were we in targeting high risk. We only got 7 of 33 were high risk. Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to the 87 that are beyond the 90 days compliance, probably through to the general manager, but maybe the chief biosecurity officer. What's our strategy and what sort of target are we getting to try and get that closer to zero? So the next 2 or 3 months, is there a strategy?
Chris, you'll have a chat with the conversations you're having with the officers.
So a portion of them, or a larger portion of them, was lane-based inspections, which we've now got a couple of officers and myself trying to spread time between the other areas and Blaine to try and catch up on them. Since the last report, our numbers come down about 50 properties that were outside the gates. They are making inroads into that at the moment. And it's going to be a bit of a time factor with what the work the boys were doing before, plus bringing one staff member down, just trying to play catch up in that area and get on top of them, but they are making progress through that.
I think we were at 130 last time, with that
137 or something.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I do commend, Mr. Chair, that we are getting it down. I'm just, as in, hopefully we've got a strategy for the next, but before we start seeing a large number come back on again in the next batch in spring and into summer, as in to try and get these knocked off first.
Right, any other comments, gentlemen? If not, then I'll put the recommendation. All in favour?
Right.
9.2 penalty infringement notices. The recommendation is that the council notes the report. Member Smith, thank you. Sorry, Member Leslie, Member Smith, thank you. Discussion on this matter, gentlemen. I make my normal comment that in the second table, we're still using the word owning rather than owing. And the same in the fourth table, we're still using owning rather than owing.
Correct. Correct.
So,
Mr. Chair, too, can I actually hop back to the roads? The Great Western Highway is still being spelled GRATE.
yes.
I think that's reasonably accurate.
Yeah.
Might grate on some of this.
There is a milestone in that, Mr. Chairman. 100.
Yes. We've got a century. So 101, I think, was up from 86 last time, wasn't it? 86, I think it was. Yeah. So we've issued about, let's say, 14 plus, have we? Yes. Okay. And what's the situation now? We've still got more to come, or that's just about
As we're working through that, especially that 80, sorry. More than that's that.
so. So we'd expect on those figures, basically, to get revenue from about 78 pins, is that correct? I think there's about 23 that have been withdrawn.
We've got about 30 now.
Yes, but we are expecting to get revenue from about 78.
Yeah.
So are we getting more pins challenged than we were previously?
The penalty infringement notices that we've issued since you last saw this report, we've had one only requesting review, and we haven't had any court elects. So it would appear that they've stuck with the client they were given to, and they haven't sought Revenue New South Wales for assistance there. So I think that's a good sign that we may get a good response to this.
Thank you. Any other comments on this report?
Just going to quickly ask Mr. Chair, is there any update on the court elects or the?
I think we do that, we're doing that in the.
Yeah, confidential.
Thank you. All in favour of this report?
Aye.
9.3 is the Central Tablelands Regional Weeds Committee. The recommendation, if the council notes the report. You do concur. Yeah. So can I have a move, please? I suppose the recommendation is that that's being set. Move, please. Thank you. All right, discussion on this or any further commentary from the general manager or the chief biosecurity officer?
The council was invited to make comment about the state committee and at the state conference that's just been concluded yesterday in Dubbo. Our biosecurity operations manager Chris had an opportunity to sit with a panel of people and work with the state committee on the review of their purpose. I found Chris's verbal report back to me on that as very interesting. They were really reaching out to the regions to talk about how the current arrangements are operating and how they may be improved in the future. It sounds like a very positive sit down. The Central Tablelands Regional Weeds Committee seems to be one of the very active committees in the state as well. They seem to be leading the way in several areas. I think that is assisted by having a county council within an LLS region. That Chris does go there with a very broad experience across our 4 local government areas. So sometimes size doesn't matter, but I think when we talk to the regional weeds committees, I think it does assist us with our voice at those meetings. I'm interested in the way in which the Department of Primary Industries and councils do liaise with each other about weeds and the role of local land services. It's not a simple relationship, and it's important to us, I think, that we really do activate this regional committee.
Through our associations with other county councils and organisations, are we in fact able to encourage them to know some of them within the Central Tablelands, obviously, but some of them are, to assist us in that goal and supporting us and nurturing us when necessary. Not nurturing, but supporting.
I used the opportunity where the county councils were together in one town in Dubbo to convene a meeting with them, and that was very positive indeed. They are now proceeding to consider the intellectual property agreements that we've developed, and the chair has been invited to talk with one of the councils. That's Warwick Castle Ray, is that what they're called? Castle Ray Warwick, and I'll give you details of the chairman there. But they are progressing to move toward the same policy settings that we have and the same systems of work, and that's a real positive step. As a less positive bit of feedback, the change of name has been combined with consideration of our approaches about assisting them with their compliance and enforcement arrangements. I think it's now seen that we may be actively trying to impose ourselves upon some councils. So I think there is a little bit of work that we can do, and I will provide some information to councillors between meetings about that view and whether we can do a few things to ease those councils. This is definitely not a takeover, and I emphasise that point when I meet with them. We are offering something, but if they want to walk away, they can walk away. There's nothing binding about what we're doing whatsoever until we reach agreement on it. So a couple of really interesting things that I think Chris was exposed to during the weed conference. It's my first weed conference. I only went for a few hours, and I was just pretty well stunned by it. It was a very big event with over 300 odd delegates, I think was the end count. And of that, the majority of delegates were not not council employees. So the other agencies are very interested in the weeds as well. Yeah, it was, a good conference, I thought. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Member Reynolds.
I just noted something coming back to the Central Tablelands Regional Weeds Committee. I had the opportunity to have a look at the new regional weeds plan that came out late last year, but I was unaware that it came out. But the one positive is that most of the concerns that were either expressed on behalf of the county council or on behalf of individual members, and I put a submission in, seem to have been addressed. Which is a big move forward, because there was a lot of within that plan, a lot of structure that was sort of saying we as Upper Macquarie or our Central Tablelands Weeds Authority were responsible for, which we weren't responsible for, and they've now been removed from the plan, which is a big move forward from my reading of it. I don't know if the general managers had the opportunity to have a look at the new one, but I think that's a major advancement as well. With our regional one is for the Central Tablelands. So I haven't looked at the others, but I just looked at ours, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. WAP report. Recommendation of the council notes report. Can we move it, please? Member Reynolds, seconder. Member O'Connor, thank you. Discussion on this matter, please. Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think our staff need to be congratulated and commended for achieving the targets and exceeding in most cases here. So I think that
all but three.
And where we haven't achieved, we've exceeded it by a long way in other areas. So I think our staff need to be, and particularly for part of the year, we were one staff member down. So it really should be noted and noted in the minutes that we thank all of our staff members, our fire security officers and the chief fire security officer and other staff for all the work that they've done to get us to this point. So I just hope that can be noted in the minutes, because I think it's important that we recognise our staff for a job well done. And again, the targets, which are quite high when you look at some of the other councils in our area and across the state, have been exceeded in a lot of cases, as I previously mentioned. So it really shows you that we're getting the runs on the ground. Besides the previous reports with showing the prosecution and the outcomes, that it's, I believe, notable that we're actually, in a lot of cases, getting weeds under control. There's still a long way to go, but I think we're, as an organisation, in a very good position to achieve most of our outcomes. So, yeah, I'd just like to commend this particular recommendation and pat the staff on the back. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, it is a good report, and when we note the problems we've often had with fitting in within the WAP criteria to make our inspection activities in particular meet the WAP criteria, which is obviously general managers looking at. So in light of that in particular, I think it's highly commendable in us to overachieve in all areas. I mean, the three that haven't been overachieved, the regional inspection programs, inspection of nurseries, pet shops and soda, we only have so many in the area. Training activities, I'm surprised at that because we do quite a lot of training activities as a group. Maybe that criteria is far too high. Advertising program, that's probably an area we do need to work on, and we have discussed that.
Now the website's up, Lisa's got an ambitious goal in front of her there, but a good one.
All right, any further comments, gentlemen? If not, then I'll put the motion, the recommendation, all in favour? Thank you. We go to 2.1, other matters. County Council meeting schedule for the remainder of 2023. The recommendation is the council adopt the proposed meeting schedule. Move please. Member Leslie and Member Smith, thank you. Any discussion on this? Member Reynolds?
Just going to highlight that the council may need a special meeting with the financials. Probably a suggestion, but it's up to the general manager and yourself to call the meeting, but possibly around the workshop time to consider the financials, because November's a long way out, given that the financials will now go to the auditors and probably come back fairly quickly, Mr. Chair.
What I was going to suggest is that we're looking at a Serena Tussock workshop, correct? I was going to try and suggest that maybe we tie that meeting in, because then it'll be early in September, maybe. I don't know how long the auditors take.
Not sure.
The Serena Tussock workshop has been mentioned today about our longer term plans and to commence a discussion there. So that 15th September looks like a large agenda at this stage. At the time with that, maybe we'll do some discussion now.
So if we had a longer day on the 15th of September, how are people placed?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I mentioned, I think I'm getting a shoulder reconstruction in early September, which means that I'll be out for 6 weeks because I won't be able to drive. And,
Not even if we pick you up.
Takes driving me to the golf, so
Ah,
might make it.
Zoo?
Beg pardon?
Zoo?
So that's possible, yeah, yeah, I'm just not sure where we'll be. So I think it's probably a bit unlikely. Just
I'd be doubtful.
Andrew.
So look, the question is, if we think there's too much, we may need to look at this, but if there's too much for that workshop, we may have to split it in two, because we have to look at how many things we've got in the workshop. One of the topics we've known, we've got some rate tasks, we've got the future. What else?
The future's a big one.
Yes.
Only a little one.
You'd probably take all day, Mr. Chair, if you really want to.
I mean, if you were travelling, I'd certainly like to participate in the Serena Tussock workshop. That was feasible.
So when is your,
I'm back in early
when you go in?
September the 4th. And you can always.
Well, what I was thinking is if we had the accounts back from the auditors by then, we could certainly do an extraordinary meeting then and have a delay. Doesn't one on the 4th of September or whatever the day is. But we may not, that 2 weeks may not be long enough.
I'll have to check in with them. We still have to. There's space where is it? Publish. We also have to exhibit the fact that they will be presented at a certain time. So I know that there's some unusual timings to when they get presented. We have to do certain things.
November's not that far away, really.
If we can.
I'll see, I'll check in with the auditors.
When's race week?
The week of the 4th.
As in to discuss financial.
I'm happy to include in the motion that the general manager be given the authority to call such a meeting if necessary.
Well, he's already got the. We can call it when we know, absolutely. So I think
Another day, I want to get together in November. There another date we could add to the schedule.
Get the timings, I think, and because we can do September. Afterwards on, right? It's
So maybe
it starts on
we
start.
know that the 15th of September, depending on the auditors, may also include a extraordinary general meeting. You can note that, but we don't know for certain yet because we don't know the timing of the audit.
Exactly.
So that we'd still have the workshop at 12, or we could have the meeting at 12 and the workshop following. That will depend on.
Other way around, I'd like a workshop early because I can be less diligent on time for that. And then, but that's my personal, don't work on
And
it.
so, I'm like,
Yeah.
Do you prefer the workshop first and have the meeting later?
Yeah, because
We can always come back to the workshop at 2 or 2:30.
Yeah.
If that meets with the auditors. So do we want to schedule a meeting now? And if it's not, we can always abandon the meeting.
to be confirmed.
The auditors, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 o'clock. Nathan.
2 o'clock.
And then we stop the workshop and then you can come back, as you said, at 2:30.
Always come back in the workshop later.
And that workshop will be the long-term future
Or the Surrey.
based on you.
Well, I
I think
think
we've got an apology from Bruce.
yes, that's right. So it has to be the long-term future.
as Andrew was saying,
On
just expressing preference, but obviously I.
on serrated tussock, are we now ready to go? All guns ready to go for the workshop?
I'm trying to limit what we present to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, because we deferred this workshop for some time, should we be looking at having it in not too distant future, noting remember what's going for operation on the 4th of September? Is it possible to do it before then? Only because of the number of times we deferred it, and we're being asked a lot of questions in the community about fluoride. We have to be very careful what we say.
Absolutely.
The Friday before, is that possible?
What date is Friday 3?
25th or something.
I can't do the
I can't do the
25th.
25th.
I'm going to Mount Hope,
No, no,
yes, in the centre of the state.
I think you can discuss the future of that hope.
No hope.
Might be after the next 2 Fridays.
And, sorry.
First, when's your surgery?
The joint organisation's also the 23rd,
what's the first,
24th.
is that Friday?
Yes, Friday, the 1st of September,
Friday,
Mr. Chair.
Certainly, I'm sure.
1st of September, so far I think I'm okay. What about everyone else?
I think so.
That's just September.
First,
That's Friday. So there-
That's 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
1st of September.
Thank you.
Which date now?
First.
First of September.
About 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away, is it? Is that coming?
That's serrated tussock, not the future.
Oh,
So
sorry.
there's 2 workshops.
What time?
Probably not really.
An afternoon
Not ideal, but I can manage it.
Any time better than others, Alan?
or a middle of the day?
Any time better than the other?
No, midday is probably as good as any.
Yeah. So doing the first instead of the 15th or?
No, no, no. 1st September,
1st of September is fine with me.
Friday at 4.
Oh, it's gonna be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is that yours? Andrew?
2 o'clock, yeah.
You'd like it 2 o'clock?
Yeah, so,
All right, we can make it. Are you happy to go late if it goes late?
yeah,
Everyone else happy with that? 2 o'clock then, 2 o'clock for the workshop. If we have to go to 7 o'clock, we'll be at the pub.
That's the dinner afterwards.
Can we have dinner afterwards?
Members, get the,
finish that on.
date, not time.
Friday the 1st.
The first, it's in-
Don't need to, we just book it.
It will only go for one afternoon.
Not into the evening.
How will you? We having other biosecurity officers. Yeah, so they all right with that time? That, special meeting, that's all, I'll never get the land. Yeah.
And I won't be able to help you if you take a shower.
Got one arm. You can hear us.
Yeah, okay, good point. Oh, excellent.
Oh,
But I
excellent.
thought you were in the golf.
That's right. That's the other problem.
We had a mover and a second on the, on that, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
councillor Lee.
That's right, thank you. So, if, I think if I got this right, so the schedule as we currently have it is the 1st of September, 2 p.m. a workshop for serrated traffic. 15th September, 12 p.m. a workshop on the future of the organisation. 24th of November 2023, sorry, and a 2 p.m. meeting.
So the one, the 15th is what time?
It's 12.
Yeah, okay.
And then we have on the 15th, we have a meeting following 15th September 23, 3 p.m. We don't have to call an extraordinary meeting now. We have a ordinary council meeting to approve the accounts.
Oh,
To be confirmed.
that creates a lot of extra work for the staff because you've got to provide financial reports and other reports. I'd leave it as a special.
Or extraordinary,
Yeah,
extraordinary meeting to approve the accounts. Is that, we have a specific purpose for it then we can't get any extraneous material. That you have to put in, isn't that right? Correct. And the 24th of November 2023, 2 p.m. we have an ordinary council meeting. On the basis of that revision to the schedule,
Still happy to move it.
yeah, the mover and second are happy with those changes?
Yeah.
Right, all in favour? Thank you. 10.2 is the local government New South Wales annual conference. The recommendation is the council appoint a member as a delegate voting for the LG New South Wales annual conference 2023. And 2, the council considers whether they will be submitting any motions to the conference. Could I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Member Smith and Member Watt. We need discussion and.
Will I move an amendment?
Well, the amendment will include the person who's the.
Well, I'll ask whether they're happy to have an amendment, as in point 3, that we also take one staff member to the conference.
All right, do we have a second for the amendment? Member Leslie. Right, so we have an amendment now, so we have to vote on the amendment first. Any discussion on the amendment?
Well, given I moved the
Yes, you
potential
bet.
amendment, I think it's, we took a staff member to part of the last one. I think it was of great value. There was networking. I know we've just networked in Dubbo, but most of the county councils do attend, as in the general managers of the county councils do attend. And for at least one day of the conference and possibly Monday, but maybe the whole conference, it would be of value to have a staff member there and given it's in Sydney, so reasonably close proximity, that it would be value to, and also to talk with, as in for example, I'll just use this as an example, the banks are there. So to see whether there is a better opportunity than what we currently have, but to actually have a discussion with, other financial institutions that are there or other organisations. There are a lot of storeholders, and there may be some advantage in having a discussion there as well with some of those storeholders. So I see advantages in at least having a staff member, whether it's the general manager or another staff member there for at least one day, Mr. Chair.
So are you suggesting that therefore the point 3? Wording, if the proposer and seconder.
Yep.
For the amendment are happy. All right, any other discussion on this?
Where we get elected, we
No,
nominate.
I realise that. So who is anyone going there as well as a delegate at this stage?
Would you like to go?
I'm interested in going again, but if someone else from the county council wants to go, I don't. Or if the chair wants to go.
Someone in line with the dates?
4th to the 14th of November.
I was going to say it was September, we're in trouble.
Yeah. September. At Rose Hill Gardens, if you stay over, you can hunt.
Well, should we do something
I'll help out
again
with some
similar to
tickets.
what we've just done and put 4, have it as the chairman or his delegate, then we can leave it a bit open.
As long as we register.
When we have to-
Cheaper date, there's a cheaper date if you register before a particular date.
What's the date?
We don't have to register people, we can just register spots.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's obviously cheap if the organisation, but someone's going under their council. Pat,
Well, no one knows that.
no one knows that.
My council will decide on Tuesday night, so.
Alan's go?
No, on Tuesday, next Tuesday, we will
Oh, right.
make a decision on who's going from Blaney Shire.
I think I will just send some there. Maybe the general manager, don't you, Bruce?
No, I'd like to comment that the chairman or his delegate, his representative.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think we can leave that open.
If the chairman can't, I am happy to go.
Yeah.
So we'll have a
No,
representative.
but at least that gives us the flexibility. It means that we're prepared to send someone, but it gives us the flexibility.
And I can register, register.
And yeah, all right. So if we maybe we put this into, so maybe if I could suggest, and we need you to put an amendment, so we'd have to have a further amendment. The council appoint the chairman or his representative as a delegate voting to attend the LG New South Wales Annual Conference 2023. That'll be 1. 2, the council consider whether they will be submitting any motions to the conference, and when do we need to do that? 5.
15th of September.
Motion submitted by 15th September.
Okay.
It's a bit like,
We can do that at the workshop.
We should do that at the workshop. And 3, the council appoints the general manager or his delegate to attend the LG New South Wales Annual Conference 2023. You got that, Lisa?
Yes, I think so.
I mean,
That's all right, just.
so,
Like that.
as a chairman, I'm putting that as an amendment. The amendment, can I have a second? That's it. Any discussion on that? All in favour?
Aye.
So that then becomes the.
And that then becomes the motion. That's right. Then we got to vote on the motion.
Yes.
So all in favour of the motion?
well,
I think we've got to, you've got the first amendment.
Oh, we haven't amended. Yes, we didn't vote on that, did we?
And,
Can we combine the two together?
yeah, we'll just agree, we've combined all the motions together. You could have asked the meeting in the second or.
We can withdraw the first amendment. Second.
withdrawn.
second amendment.
Maybe all this, yeah, okay.
I just wanted to talk before we,
You need to move the motion.
We move the motion.
but before you move the motion, I want to talk.
Yes.
Um, ordinary council. And so we looked at a potential motion, but then we also discussed, could we actually achieve anything by putting up a motion about compliance and restrictions, and did we have a solution, which we probably don't, because of the compliance issues. So that's not to say that anyone else around this table may have by the 15th, as in some other solution. But I just wanted to highlight that we did spend a fair bit of time, the general manager and myself, after the last council meeting, which I think we discussed that we were going to try and come up with a motion. And it was just, it became too complex to actually come up with something that would actually achieve anything for this county council outside of stating our compliance is too high. And I think most people already realise that as a county council. But I wanted to flag it in case someone, including the chair, something else by the 15th, so we don't need to work on anything today. It's more the June and myself trying to come up with something we could.
If we got support from our risk committee on reducing it in some areas, would that provide us with the information to put notice of motion to the local government?
The problem is that the order of risk committee has to look at the legislation, Mr. Chair, and the legislation is very black and white. That, well, we don't believe that the legislation, they've got to work within the legislation. Is my
But they could
understanding.
say that in challenges of the county council, this section is actually legislation should be applied.
You can ask
But
the
they-
chair, the two independents, whether they would consider that I'm the other person.
Anyway, can I suggest we have maybe further investigation of that area? I
You
think
can now go to your vote.
I like the idea. All right, all in favour of the recommendations as amended and amended. Thank you. Notice of motion, we have none. We're now moving confidential.
Just, Mr. Chairman, a quick question. The meeting on the 24th of November, that's in Kilter.
Yes. You're somewhere else to go.
Unless for some reason I can't get this room.
It's not 110 William Street.
This is fine, by me.
It's the middle box.
Just wanted to.
Oh, right, okay, yes, I think it's here.
We will leave you at 110 William.
Right.
But I would suggest that maybe next year,
We go again.
the staff will jump on there, that we look at at least one meeting before we dissolve outside of Bathurst. That's a possibility that we could take it out, but then it's not part of this. We should do it.
All right, members, the next issue is confidential. The recommendation is that council resolve to move into closed committee of the whole to review the following items. Confidential matters in progress, chairman's minute, general manager's performance review, prosecution update, local government regulation section 213 debt write-off, we buy security property inspections for June and July 2023. Could I have a mover, please? Reynolds, second up, Connor. All in favour that we move into confidential? Thank you. I ask the recordings. In relation to confidential matters in progress, I've got a couple, didn't write down who was posed. Does anyone remember who posed the second?
Which one?
First one, confidential matters in progress. Remember
Oh,
what?
matters in progress. Yes, sorry, I got that. Sorry, that was Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Watt.
Connor and what? Recommendation of the council, the motion was a council notes of report. in relation to chairman's minute, and the general manager's performance. With the recommendation, the council notes the performance review committee's report on the general manager's performance for the period 6th of June 2022 to 6th of June 2023. That was moved by me and seconded by member O'Connor. On the prosecution cases 4 to 14, the recommendation was council notes the report, and that was moved by member O'Connor and member Smith. On 15, which was, sorry, the local government regulation section 213.
Councillor Smith,
Second. 16, which was the weed biosecurity property inspection reports for June and July 2023. The recommendation was council notes the report. The mover was
Councillor Leslie and seconded by Smith.
councillor Leslie and member Smith was second. All right. The next meeting.
Now we do the GM's report as well.
No, we did that in
What's
order.
that? I did it in order.
We just.
Oh, okay.
Moved the back to actually implement it.
So. So I now declare, so the next meeting of the Upper Macquarie County Council will now be the 15th of September at 2 p.m. Which will be an extraordinary meeting to consider the financials and one other issue, I think. I'm now.
And a workshop.
And there's a workshop following that, yes, but we have to. Yeah,
1st of September.
Workshop on the 1st of September. Oh, that's right. Sorry, there's a workshop on the 1st of September, but the next ordinary meeting will be the 15th of September. And right. Now declare the meeting closed at 4:38 p.m.